President Trump also seeming to once again blame Zelensky for the war Russia started.
I get along with Zelensky, but, I disagree with what he's done. Very, very severely disagree. This is a war that should have never happened.
But 3 years after the Russian invasion...
Erdogan trying to steal Trump's deals. Erdogan proposes hosting Russia-Ukraine summit. Oh, my God. My goat, dude. My goat. He's the table. He wants to be the table so bad. He's like, bro, come on. I'm right here.
This is the Ukrainian land the Russians now control. Is this what President Trump is talking about when he suggests Russia and Ukraine could swap land, something Zelensky has said he would not approve on his own?
I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap, because there'll be some land.
Yeah, who could forget when Zelensky invaded Russia? February 2022, Zelensky said, I got congressional approval. We're invading Moscow. Bro, what do you mean? God, I can't even fucking make fun of Zelensky. I want to, but I can't because this motherfucker's so crazy. Okay? It's just like, it's so stupid. Zelensky got invaded. Zelensky got invaded without congressional approval. No congressional approval then. What now?
Swapping going on.
Zelensky says Russia is trying to deceive the U.S. and is calling for tougher sanctions. Neither Zelensky nor European leaders have been invited to this week's summit.
If it's a fair deal, I'll reveal it to the European Union leaders and to the NATO leaders and also to President Zelensky. I think out of respect, I'll call him first.
President Trump also saying he hopes in the future all three of the presidents can meet, but that would very much depend on what happens at this summit on Friday. Michael?
Yeah, we will see what happens, Martha. Thank you.
In the last 48 hours, it's become fairly clear that the Russians have launched a surprise offensive in the Donbass area, mainly between Pokrovsk and Kramatorsk, and they've had some success. They seem to have advanced on 2 or 3 fronts by about 15 or 20 kilometres, which is quite a long way in terms of the present war. Undoubtedly, what they're trying to do is to change the facts on the ground between now and the weekend when this summit takes place between President Trump and Putin in Alaska. And changing the facts on the ground, of course, is all about maybe swapping territories or having...
RX is just thank you for the 10 gifted subs. The Piker Broadcasting Service is funded by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. You can also support the broadcast, the Piker Broadcasting Service, PBS, by subscribing for $6 or for free with Twitch Prime. The Ukrainian front line is collapsing in that part, yes. I mean, it's the most predictable outcome that I said was inevitable, even though people keep fucking yelling at me whenever I bring this up. Because they don't have manpower. That's it. That's why there's only 2 options out of this. If you want Ukraine to continue the fight without a reasonable managed negotiation for a ceasefire, you have to literally deport every Ukrainian man in the Western world, whether it be from Poland or any number of different Western countries, the United States of America, back to Ukraine so they get forcibly conscripted to go into battle. You have to train them. There is a runway for this. It's not going to be easy. That is the only possible way that you can make up for the lack of manpower. Even if you send all the weapons, it doesn't matter. Or you can lower the age of conscription in Ukraine and forcibly draft younger and younger Ukrainians, which, of course, cooks the next generation of Ukraine as a nation state until there's nothing left to defend. You want to kill more Ukrainians? Did I say that this was the right thing to do? No, I didn't say that. I don't think it's the right thing to do. It's the only option. If there's two things that you can do here. Either you just cave to Vladimir Putin's ridiculous fucking demands and try to manage that negotiations process, not by undermining Ukraine, but by establishing some semblance of sovereignty for Ukraine, so that all is not lost, which is Trump is not doing that anyway. He's literally fucking farming what remains of Ukrainian natural resources and doing like a minerals deal, while simultaneously offering Ukrainian territory to Russia and like a legal recognition, or at least like a de facto recognition of annexed territory already. You should have an expert on war fighting in Ukraine and enlistment requirements rather than just say shit. Can you have some expert on the war rather than just your knee-jerk reaction? I mean, sure. If you have any expertise, if you have any experts that you think I should talk to, great. I'm down to listen. Having said that, I do fucking read the experts in war fighting, and their analysis has been incorrect. My knee-jerk reaction, which is what I've been at, that ultimately, in terms of just like the meat grinder that Eastern Ukrainian territory looks like, Russia has the capacity to send more manpower, even with like diminished weapons. Like one of the things that I saw that I read from frontline Ukrainian soldiers, like one of the reports that I read that stuck with me was a Ukrainian troop position in Eastern Ukraine. I forget exactly where it was. There was this guy that was talking about how like even if there is one Russian soldier with a busted ass, like old ass, dusty ass AK-47, okay, positioned in a fucking building, that still requires a tremendous amount of manpower and a tremendous amount of resources to successfully fucking remove from that position. So like the problem is there are a fuck ton of Russian soldiers. There are just more Russian soldiers than there are Ukrainian soldiers. So even if they don't have the best gear, even one person can hold an area for an extended period of time. And it makes the operations infinitely more complicated. Okay? It's a war of attrition, and the side that has more people to throw at the problem is obviously, or the side that has a larger economy that is capable of withstanding this war of attrition is going to inevitably win. Ukrainian here, if the U.S. and other Western countries allowed Ukraine to use their weapons all the way, including on Russian territory, and did not undermine our counteroffensive in 2022, we would be having a very different conversation. Maybe, but that's not where we're at anymore. I think the best possible solution in this circumstance was when Ukraine had the maximum amount of leverage after they were able to withstand the Kiev offensive. But ultimately, right now, what we have in front of us is a smaller country, Ukraine, completely incapable of withstanding further Russian offenses. Their positions are dug in eastern Ukraine, and they're slated to take violently more territory. So, for that reason, if you want a real solution to this conflict, if you want to end the additional bloodshed in this circumstance, either you have to disband NATO so that like European militaries can operate without Article 5, which is not going to happen, or forcibly send Ukrainian refugees that currently live in the Western world back to Ukraine to be conscripted, to get trained, and then to be sent to the front lines with weapons in their hands, with an additional push of weapons, which, by the way, is not a guarantee that it's going to succeed. Or in terms of what to do, considering that Russia is a foreign adversary, and people say, can't you say the same thing about Palestine? Great question. There's a difference. We are the belligerent in Palestine. Okay? We are the party that is allowing our extension to continue doing a genocide, which is, again, different than a war, in a captive, against a captive population of Palestinians. Okay? We are the belligerents. We have maximum control. We could literally make Israel stop tomorrow if we wanted to. We can't make Russia stop if we, clearly, we don't have the same amount of power over Russia. I think the best implementation here would be to try and bring China to the table, considering that they are a political backer of Russia at this point, and to have a conversation with China, Russia, the United States, the EU, and Ukraine to come together and create a reasonable solution that does not completely write off the Ukrainians from the equation. Does Ukraine have nukes? No, they gave up the nukes, and that's why they're currently getting fucking destroyed.
A territorial transfer ahead of some sort of ceasefire. So what might that transfer look like? If there is going to be some sort of territorial transfer, I'm pretty skeptical myself, but this may be what we're talking about. There are 4 areas to think about. One of them is Crimea. Crimea is really important. The Russians will not give up Crimea. The Ukrainians are in no position to take it back anytime soon. So although Crimea is very important legally and militarily, it's off the table as far as present negotiations go. A second area...
Remember when I said this and everybody fucking yelled at me? Well, 3 years in the future, now you got fucking traditional mainstream outlets saying it too. They got there. This is still something that people fucking point to. They'd be like, dude, what are you? I can't believe you said that. You love Russia. You're pro-Russia. You want Russia to fucking take over the entirety of Ukraine.
Would be the marginal areas up in Sumy and Kharkiv. The Russians...
No, you were saying Crimea is closer to Mongolia than Ukraine. That's what you get yelled at for? Wait, what? Crimea is closer to Mongolia than Ukraine. No, I jokingly said Crimea is first and foremost Ottoman territory because it's supposed to belong to the ethnic group, the Tatars. What? That's not my serious assessment. Obviously, that's a joke.
After the Kursk offensive, hold a little bit of Ukrainian territory opposite Sumy, a little bit of territory in Kharkiv. They might agree to withdraw from those territories. It doesn't cost them anything to do that. And it would be a certain amount of withdrawal which the Ukrainians could talk about. That would be a second area, reasonably easy to negotiate. Third area, much more difficult to negotiate, is the Donbass. The Russians say they want the whole of the Donbass as a first step. Well, they hold most of Luhansk, which is one part of it. They hold about 3/4 of Donetsk, but they don't hold the other quarter, which is the bit that the Ukrainians have fought so hard for, really since 2014, not just since 2022. And the Russians are saying they want the whole of the Donbass. And in that area...
Of course, as a non-starter for Zelensky, who says, I am not going to surrender my country because I have no right to do so. Zelensky said, if we leave Donbass today, our fortifications are terrain, the heights we control. We will clearly open a bridgehead for the preparation of a Russian offensive. You said appeasement over and over again? Yeah, no. From the river to the sea, except not for Ukraine. Why? What am I missing? By this logic, Palestine should give Gaza City... Dog, I'm an American, okay? Do you understand? I am an American citizen, okay? I am an American. As an American, we have technically, theoretically, some kind of say over what America says and does around the world. And as an American, I'm telling you that Israel would not be able to genocide the Palestinian people without America's go-ahead. Russia is a foreign nation, a kleptocracy, which with American intervention initially in the dissolution of the USSR that became what it is now, but it's a right-wing, authoritarian, kleptocracy that is held together by a bunch of fucking former KGB oligarchs that took all of the state enterprises and turned them into their own fucking unlimited money faucets. Okay? We, as Americans, do not have the same level of control over what Russia does. Russia's incursion into Ukraine is unjustifiable, immoral, incredibly violent. Okay? Its invasion is completely unacceptable. No one is disagreeing on this. I'm not disagreeing on this. I've never fucking said it was good. Do you understand? I'm simply looking at the situation right now in front of us. If you think this is, if you want my moral opinion, okay, my moral opinion, yeah, of course Ukraine should be fucking free of Russian incursion. Yes, I agree. What do you mean? Of course. But that's not what we're having a conversation around. Russia is not Israel. Israel, well, a lot of Russians in Israel, but Russia is not Israel, okay? Israel is a extension of the United States of America. Israel cannot exist in the violent, belligerent ways that it does without America's go-ahead, without America's unlimited support. Okay? That's it. We don't have the same level. We do not have the same level of control over Russia as a foreign adversary as we do over Israel. That's the major difference. We have the same level of control over Ukraine that we have over Israel, but Ukraine is the wronged party here. So obviously it doesn't fucking matter. Do you understand? And Trump is using the level of control that we have over Ukraine to fuck over Ukraine. It's not that complicated. If we leave Donbass today, our fortifications, our terrain, the heights we control, we will clearly open a bridgehead. Which, by the way, I don't even think this is a false assessment.
There are the four big cities, Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, Kostiantynivka, Drushkivka, and those are the fortress cities. They're like a very strong line of defenses. And the Ukrainians will be required to give up those strong line of defenses and let the Russians in. And west of that, it's harder to construct defenses. So that's a third area, very, very sensitive.
Yeah, while we're having this conversation, in recent days, Russia's troops broke through a segment of Ukraine's defensive line near the city of Pokrovsk, a longtime stronghold. They advanced several miles into Ukrainian-held territory, threatening to outflank Ukraine's positions. I want to point to something here, okay? This article is from the New York Times. And in the past, the New York Times' assessment of what was going on in Ukraine was infinitely more cheery. So the very fact that they're actually changing their discourse on Russia's advancements into Ukraine implies that they are getting their notes once again from the American State Department. And the American State Department's assessment, possibly led by Donald Trump, possibly led by the conditions on the battleground, are now different than the way that the Joe Biden administration presented the situation. Obviously, circumstances were also different as well. There was at least there was, I guess, by their own version of events, they thought that Ukraine could put up a stronger fight. They thought that Ukraine could potentially push back Russian forces from eastern Ukraine. They were wrong. But the very fact that this is coming from the New York Times means that the American State Department has also changed their dynamic, also changed the way they are looking at the situation. Okay? That's it. When this is a reflection, in my opinion, this is a reflection of the State Department's attitude. Part of that is due to Donald Trump. I mean, this next incursion further into Ukrainian territory is only made possible by Donald Trump routinely fucking going back and forth and undermining the Ukrainian positions, for sure. I'm sure that played a role on this. But the major reason here is because Ukraine is running out of manpower. This is not my assessment. I don't know. I don't know what the front lines look like. This is just the assessment that I keep reading from experts. Having said that, do I believe Russia has the capacity to militarily occupy eastern Ukraine permanently? I do not. For the record, I don't. I don't think that they have that capacity. So this will cook Russia in the long run, is what I think. Okay, there will be covert operations. There will still be guerrilla warfare. I'm certain that there will always be Ukrainian resistance in these areas against the newfound Russian annexation. It's going to be incredibly difficult for Russia to hold the eastern Ukrainian territory. But that's for the future. For the time being, it doesn't seem like this can continue as like state versus state warfare. That's not true. The actual Ukrainians are evacuating before the Russians take over. No, I know. But that doesn't mean they're not going to come back eventually. Come on, just read it, you illiterate commentator. It's crazy because a lot of people would see Israeli annex of Gaza with full rights for Palestinians as a much better situation. Israel isn't just grabbing Gaza for land. They want the Palestinians dead completely and pushed out. They want the land with no Palestinians on it. I don't want to make that comparison. You're not wrong to make that. You're not wrong for that statement, but if I make that comparison, everyone's going to fucking freak out on me, okay? Because Russia's invasion of Ukraine is completely and utterly unjustifiable. But yes, that is the major difference. Israelis will not offer any fucking citizenship, even with like complete re-education and whatnot, and ethnic domination over the out group. They will not offer any citizenship whatsoever to the Palestinians. They literally want to eradicate the Palestinians. That's the major difference between what Russia is doing, which is military occupation and making that quote unquote a part of Russia and all the citizens a part of Russia as well, which is again completely unjustifiable. But there are differences between what Russia is doing in that regard as opposed to what Israel is doing to the Palestinians, because Israel does not want Palestinians there. Israel does not want to give Palestinian citizenship. Russian forces are striving to shape the battlefield to their advantage before a high-stakes summit between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, making a swift advance in eastern Ukraine after months of grinding battle. In recent days, Russian troops broke through a segment of Ukraine's defensive line near the city of Pokrovsk, a longtime stronghold. They have advanced several miles into Ukrainian-held territory, threatening to outflank Ukraine's positions. The situation is quite chaotic, as the enemy, having found gaps in their defense, is infiltrating deep inside, trying to quickly establish a foothold and accumulate forces for further advancement. Advancement said Deep State, a Ukrainian group with ties to the military that maps the battlefield. President Zelensky of Ukraine said in his evening address on Monday that the Russians are redeploying their troops and forces in ways that suggest preparations for new offensive operations, and that they are not preparing for a ceasefire or an end to the war. Or this could be seen as a last-ditch attempt to conquer additional territory so that there's a stronger foothold to stand on for Vladimir Putin when he goes back to the ceasefire negotiations process with Donald Trump and say, see, we took these areas, we could take even more areas, so now you have to give us those areas, which I understand is a non-starter. That makes no fucking sense. The idea that like Russia would take over areas as well that they haven't even militarily occupied is completely fucking ridiculous. Ukraine, too, is seeking an edge before the Russian-American peace talks on Friday in Alaska. Kyiv has ramped up attacks on Russian oil refineries, doubling down on a strategy of pressuring Russia into making concessions during negotiations by targeting the Kremlin's main revenue source to fund the war. Pressing their advance as peace talks gather pace has been a recurring tactic of both sides throughout the current war and the one that preceded it starting in 2014. Ukraine's bold June drone attacks deep inside of Russia, which destroyed many strategic bombers, came just a day before negotiations in Istanbul. In 2015, Russia intensified fighting during ceasefire talks surrounding the eastern town of Debaltseve to force political concessions from Kyiv. Russia's recent push near Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region, Oblast, sends a stark warning that Moscow's forces remain capable of making rapid gains on the battlefield. It comes as Mr. Putin is expected to present Mr. Trump with major demands during Friday's talks, which could include an insistence that Ukraine cede part of the Donetsk region that Kyiv still holds. Pokrovsk, which was once a critical logistical hub for Ukrainian forces in the east, is now semi-encircled from the northeast to the southwest. Ukrainian troops must pass through a narrow 10-mile corridor to enter the city, leaving them vulnerable to drone attacks. Russian forces are likely to try and tighten their noose around the city to force Ukrainian troops to withdraw, a tactic they have successfully used to capture other cities. Pasi Peronen, an analyst for the Finland-based Blackbird Group, which tracks battlefield movements, said Russian forces have quickly infiltrated Ukrainian lines at a depth of roughly 10 miles in the past 3 days, a contrast of Russia's usual slow grind. The next 24 to 48 hours will likely be crucial in whether the Ukrainian army can contain the push, Mr. Peronian wrote on X. Even as both sides keep fighting, they have tried to show Mr. Trump, who has long condemned the war as a costly waste of lives and resources, that they remain committed to pursuing peace. After Russia increased drone attacks on Ukrainian cities during talks last month between Moscow and Washington, Mr. Trump's typically lenient tone towards Mr. Putin soured noticeably. He talks nice and then he bombs everybody in the evening, Mr. Trump said over Mr. Putin. So there's a little bit of problem there. I don't like it. Just a little bit of a problem. I'd be very surprised if we get any sort of ceasefire out of this. Putin needs this for his ego and he won't agree to anything other than his ultimatum. I think you have to grease his wheels. And I don't know how much, basically, there are people who say this doesn't mean a ceasefire will be abided by, right? There are people who say, how can you trust Russia? I don't. It's simple. I don't. Okay? That's it. Just like I didn't trust Israel to abide by a ceasefire, and I was right. Okay? So the goal of a real solution to this conflict is supposed to revolve around making it so that it is less costly to pursue the path of peace for Vladimir Putin in order to preserve his, in order to basically throw some red meat his way to make it seem like he got a tremendous victory over this, okay? While simultaneously making it so that it's more costly to continue pursuing further land grabs and further land incursions. That's it. I guess like one aspect of that is to punish India for allowing Russian oil and gas to enter the market by trying to shut off another way to continue funding Russia's war economy. But then again, I don't know how much success Donald Trump will have in that regard, considering that we have basically fucking cast aside all of our international allies in Donald Trump's mass tariff terrorism. Since the beginning of August, however, Russia has significantly scaled back its drone attacks in what analysts have called an apparent attempt to curry favor with Mr. Trump. While Russia launched an average of 201 drones per night in July, a record in the war, the figure has dropped to 78 drones per night so far this month. The Russians know very well how to read Trump's mind. Alexander Krayev, the director of North America program of the Kyiv research group Ukrainian Prism, said in a phone interview, "It is not a coincidence that the drone attacks have decreased. Kyiv has been hit especially hard this summer, has been largely spared from attacks so far this month, with air raid alerts now sounding only briefly at night and lasting for an hour at most." When Mr. Trump's special envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, a retired Army general, visited the country For a few days last month, Russia significantly eased its drone attacks, prompting Ukrainians to refer to him jokingly as the Kellogg Shield. General Kellogg arrived in Ukraine, and there were no massive bombings for 2 nights in a row, Mr. Zelensky told Newsmax at the time. This means one thing: Putin is afraid of America. But with Mr. Trump's history of deference to Mr. Putin, Kyiv is concerned that the Russian leader may succeed in winning Mr. Trump over his perspective on the war by securing a one-on-one meeting that could sideline Mr. Zelensky. The Kremlin has long said an end to the fighting would need to address what it calls the root cause of the war, shorthand for a range of issues, including the existence of Ukraine as a fully independent and sovereign nation aligned with the West. To prevent that outcome, Kyiv has rallied its European allies to pressure the Trump administration against letting Russia dictate the terms of peace talks. A statement released by Tuesday by all European Union members states, except for Hungary, said that said that the path to peace in Ukraine cannot be decided without Ukraine. All of this is purely symbolic. It's no different than the way that they go, oh, we're going to recognize Palestine as a state. Okay? Europe has shown its belly over and over again to Donald Trump. They have no autonomy. If they do, they should show it. I highly doubt, maybe I'm wrong, but I highly doubt that they have any real autonomy outside of whatever the American state decides. On Tuesday, Mr. Zelensky said that a trilateral meeting with Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin would take place in the future, but that no date has been set yet. Several European leaders, together with Mr. Zelensky, will join an online meeting with Mr. Trump on Wednesday. The German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, said the discussions will focus on options to exert pressure on Russia, on preparations for potential peace negotiations, and on issues of territorial claims and security. Kyiv and European capitals are especially worried that Mr. Trump could agree to Russia's demands that Ukraine cede sizable portions of the land it still controls. The American leaders have insisted in recent days that a peace deal would involve some land swapping, or to which Mr. Zelensky responded, Ukrainians will not gift their land to the occupier. Kyiv and its European allies insist that any meaningful peace talks begin only after a ceasefire and that the current front line should be the starting point of negotiations. But with Russia's swift gains in the East in recent days, this line may have shifted by Friday. And that's their goal. Their goal is to take over more parts and I guess like completely demand the entirety of the Donetsk region. Like that whole area, including the part that they encircled. That's where we're at.
And then a fourth area is that it is reported, I'm not sure at all about this, but it is reported that maybe the Russians would give up some land in southern Zaporizhia and in Kherson as long as they could keep a land corridor between Donetsk and Crimea. So how big that land corridor would be, how much territory they might give up to create that corridor, we just don't know. It's possible that President Putin would see the idea of giving those concessions as a way of getting the Ukrainians to give this concession. But ultimately, our suspicion is that President Putin, if he is going to talk about territorial swaps, will be trying to persuade Trump.
Yeah, Trump is going to give Putin Odessa and then establish a land bridge and then inevitably give Putin Moldova in its entirety. Okay? Moldovan Mama Liga, where are you? Get ready. Get ready to learn Russian, buddy. Trump is like, come on, let's just give him. Let's just throw Moldova in there. Let's just throw it. What is Moldova? It's fake news.
To present Zelensky with a deal he simply cannot take. And Zelensky will turn it down, and then he will be blamed for the breakdown of the talks. And the reason that the Europeans are so active at the moment, ahead of this meeting on Friday, is that is a trap.
Yeah, Moldovan Mama Liga is in America currently.
They're desperate not to fall into.
We are just...
It would be possible for a liberal to wheel and deal this. Even a Reaganite could do it, but Trump is so bad at diplomacy, his patience won't last in these negotiations. Putin will play that all the way to win. Yeah. No. Putin is dangling a ceasefire in Trump's direction because Trump knows it's like politically unfeasible, especially by his base because he kept attacking the arming of Ukraine as like as a negative thing, not realizing that if he was inevitably in charge, he would have to be the guy who's like fighting against Russia. And now that he is the guy who is fighting against Russia, I guess he overestimated his relationship with Vladimir Putin and thought, oh, Putin will offer me a concession. And Putin knows that. So he's using that to continue making territorial acquisition. And he can keep making Donald Trump shit on Zelensky over and over again and make it seem as though Ukraine is like a sovereign entity here that magically arrived at this conclusion. Because like without American intervention in Ukraine, I don't know what it would look like. The annexation would probably resemble like Crimea, you know what I mean, of eastern Ukraine. Because since 2014, America has steadily funded and built up the arms and built up the training and built up the standing military of Ukraine. And it was obviously successful. It was so successful that like Russia thought that they could take over Ukraine in its entirety in a couple days, knowing full well where the anti-aircraft defenses are and everything like that. But they failed to do so. And that was directly as a consequence of like almost a decade of like American support to Ukraine. I hate how different the coverage is between Israel and Ukraine. I hate how different the coverage is between Ukraine and Israel. What do you mean? I mean, the reason why the coverage is different is because Ukrainians are automatically considered people by Western news outlets. Okay? Like, the greatest example I can use here is like when you see videos of like Ukrainian teenagers training for like community defense initiatives, there would never be a positive association with like Palestinian teenagers learning how to do self-defense against the genocidal army, like the Israeli occupational force. Russians are orcs. Israelis are the most moral military on the planet. Russians are a foreign adversary. Israel is engaging in a just battle. One is certainly an incredibly bloody war with a litany of war crimes. You can absolutely make that argument, especially like with Bucha and things like that. The other is a Holocaust.
Three days away.
Both are obviously evil, but there is a degree. There's a different degree of evil in one situation.
The potentially critical summit between US President Donald Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin in Alaska. President Trump says he wants to see what Putin has in mind for Ukraine, but he's already casting doubt on what, if anything, this meeting could accomplish, saying, quote, "It's not up to me to make a deal." Trump also claims he'll know in the first 2 minutes if a deal can be made. This is what he says that deal could include.
There'll be some swapping. There'll be some changes in land. And the word that they will use is, they make changes. We're going to change the lines, the battle lines. Russia's occupied a big portion of Ukraine. They've occupied some very prime territory. We're going to try and get some of that territory back for Ukraine.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says he will host a virtual meeting with European leaders on Wednesday to discuss options to put pressure on Russia to end.
I just don't know what territory Trump is talking about that Russia is going to give back to Ukraine. I don't understand. I don't really. Is he saying he's going to give? I joked about this, but I was like, he's going to give Alaska and Canada to Russia. Here, you take it. You deal with these guys. I don't like it. I don't like them. They're woke and gay. Canada is yours now.
the war. Donald Trump is expected to attend that meeting. So is Ukraine's president, who's still not invited to the talks in Alaska. Volodymyr Zelensky is warning the US that Putin has no plans for peace.
He is definitely not preparing for a ceasefire or an end to the war. Putin is determined only to present a meeting with America as his personal victory, and then continue acting exactly as before.
Donald Trump's casual comments about possible land swaps are striking fear in those living in eastern Ukraine, with the prospect of their cities and towns being traded away to the man who started this war in the first place.
Do you think he's unironically considering giving Alaska? No, dude. What are you, fucking nuts? Of course not. I'm joking. But also, I don't know. No, he's not going to do that. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. I'm joking. Please don't be real. It's just a joke. Sometimes I joke a little too close to the sun, and it's kind of fucked up.
Place. CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh speaks to some of the Ukrainians who could lose everything after already losing so much.
When President Trump talks about what parts of Ukraine to, quote, swap with Russia, this is ground zero. Real towns where bomb shelters loom over beaches.
I feel like I just float away from this reality.
Here in Donetsk region, diplomacy has turned dark and surreal and threatens local journalist Mikhailo's medicinal swim. What do you think about the idea of Trump and Putin meeting so far away in Alaska and deciding the fate of a place like this?
We all, people I know, will have to leave. But frankly speaking, I don't think it's gonna happen. What Trump did wrong, he just pulled him out of the bog. The Putin was just drowning in the bog. And he took him out and said, Vladimir, I want to talk to you, I like you. He didn't care that every day Ukrainians die.
Beaches, births and deaths, they all persist in ravaged Slavyansk.
Wudust Ruya, thank you for the 50 gifted subs.
They've dug defences around it to stop a Russian military advance, but never imagined high-level diplomacy might just give their town and future away. Taisia gave birth to Azul yesterday, the calm of her maternity ward bed now riddled with complications she never saw coming.
Дуже погано. Я бачила новини ці, На що ми можемо повпливати? Це вже буде рішення.
Like, this kind of attitude is fucking bullshit. Sorry you're losing, you don't get to dictate shit is crazy. Okay? I don't entertain that stuff. A lot of people are like, Hasan, why don't you fucking have this kind of attitude towards Hamas or whatever? But, like, I don't do that. The idea that, like, Ukraine doesn't get to dictate any fucking sovereignty in this process because they're losing this war that they didn't fucking they didn't deserve to go, get into by being invaded by a much larger regional power is ridiculous. Is ridiculous. They are the ones who are, at worst, being played as a proxy against a larger foreign adversary. They're stuck in the middle, and they're cooked. No matter what happens, they're just always going to be fucked over. They were either going to be fucked over by Russia, or they were going to be fucked over by the West. Right now, they're getting fucked over by both, somehow. It's insane. Shouts out to Donald Trump for that one.
Не за нами конкретно. Люди просто віддадуть свої будинки.
Staying here has been, for many, an act of defiance and bravery. But for Sviatoslav and Natalia...
There are still a lot of people who thought, and I think still do think, that, like, America joined this not as a fucking proxy. Like, America joined this not to use Ukraine as a proxy against Russia but instead for like honorable reasons, like they want to defend Ukrainians and whatnot. And I've just kept trying to explain to people since the beginning that that was not the case. America is on the right side, but for wrong reasons. Okay? And it's shocking that there are still people who entertain this notion. Like they're like, no, you don't understand. This was totally just. This was like America's investment in this was good. We're the good guys for once. Please let me have this. Okay? That's not the case. Ultimately, it still falls. The responsibility is still entirely in the hands of Vladimir Putin. That is the case. He is the party that invaded Ukraine. He is the singular responsible party. It does not matter if like America agitated and tried to create a security, like tried to create a security problem for Russia by saying like, oh, we're gonna bring Ukraine into NATO, we're going to do this, we're gonna do that. None of that matters. Russia, at the end of the day, as a regional power, had every option not to invade Ukraine, and they should have never invaded Ukraine. So it's still ultimately Russia's fault. Their position is the West's primary fault. Russia warned Ukraine and the U.S. Not saying Russia is correct, just saying Putin warned about the presence of NATO. Yes, America also knew that that would be a non-starter. I mean, this is the Mersheimer assessment, and it has been shown to be correct. But ultimately, there is still there is still additional reasons for why Vladimir Putin is doing this. There's multiple different reasons, like restoring the former glory of the Russian Empire. Like those are definitely additional reasons as to why Russia is engaging in this. It's not just like an earnest security concern, especially because they didn't have to fucking invade if they wanted to deal with an earnest security concern.
Did not spare them pain. This is their daughter, Sophia, with her husband, Mikita, and the grandson, Lev. They moved to Kiev for safety. But 11 days ago, a horrific dawn Russian airstrike killed them and 28 others in Kiev. Their 3 bodies found together in the rubble.
Уехала она от войны уехала туда, было на данный момент там тихо, а потом такое, вот видите, как бы семья здесь, в Славянске, и война настигла их там. Так.
Да, справиться с этим, знаете, по-человечески это невозможно. Невозможно справиться с потерей детей.
They had been due to visit days later, bringing news that Sophia was 3 months pregnant.
Do you remember the last time you spoke?
Да, это было в 8:30 вечера. Она и шла со Львом, она так готовилась в Славянск. Она говорит, мамочка, я так хочу в Славянск. И поделиться этой радостью, этой новостью с другими. И, не приехали. Приехали по-другому все вместе.
They came together to be buried on the town's outskirts.
I hate to break it to you, but it's too late. It's Alaska over. He already gave Alaska away, brother. Wait, what? Trump, it's embarrassing. I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday. Wait, what?
Tragic emergency. And it's embarrassing for me to be up here. You know, I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday. I don't like being up here talking about how...
Never mind. He already gave it. Okay. Well, R.I.P. R.I.P. To the Alaskan Hasanabi heads, better start learning Russian, buddy. I didn't realize it was like that. It turns out it is like that. Stop joking. It becomes real. Yep. Got to change the flags real quick. Everything is Tesla. Everything's computer. Everything is Russia, Russia, Russia.
where the war permits no calm for grief. A Ukrainian jet roars overhead. At the nearest train station, Kramatorsk, as many are coming as are going. Serhiy was allowed 2 days off from his tank unit to see Tatiana, his wife. Sirens greet the Kiev train.
А як четвертий год на війні, то як ви думаєте, тяжко. Це краще б не приїжджало. Все, заспокойся.
Просто, щоб чоловік повернувся додому. Мені пофіг на тій території, аби він був живий і повернувся додому.
Soldiers worried if they'll see their loved ones again. Families torn apart by this war. Imagine scenes like this to the thousand in the event of what seems to so many people here to be the surreal idea that a deal on Friday on the other side of the earth, almost as far away as you could possibly imagine in Alaska, between an American president and a Russian president without a Ukrainian there, could potentially give this bustling town over to the Russians after them fighting for it for so many years and failing to take it. So many lives lost here, and those traumas borne out on this platform every time a train comes in.
The Hamas-run health ministry says at least 11 people are dead in the latest round.
Whiplash. Fucking whiplash, dude. Look at that. Look at how different. Again, Ukraine is the victims here, okay? Palestinians, Ukrainians are the victims of this. The media covers it as such. Palestinians are the victims here as well. But when the media is covering Palestinian victimhood in the hands of America's most valuable ally, look at how different the dynamic is. What do you say about the claim that the journalist is Hamas? It's fucking ridiculous. It's insane. And Israel lies all the fucking time. And we should put a stop to it immediately. What can I say? Palestinians barely get a blip of the same coverage, of the same humanizing coverage that Ukrainians experience. It's so fucking insane.
Round of Israeli strikes. Tanks and warplanes bombarded parts of Gaza City overnight. Local officials report more than 100 people have been killed in the past 24 hours, including 31 people trying to get aid and 3 adults and 2 children who died from starvation. Foreign correspondent Marcus Moore is tracking the latest from London for us. Marcus, what do we know so far?
Hey, Diane, we know that there are the reports of the increased bombardment in Gaza City, and according to the health ministry, a number of victims remain under the rubble of collapsed buildings, and that at the moment there are areas that ambulances and rescuers cannot reach. And so it remains a dire situation there. And all indications are that Israel is preparing for that expanded military operation to occupy Gaza City. And this is a plan that sparked outrage and also concern about the impact it could have on the humanitarian situation in Gaza. And as you noted earlier, more people have died.
Yeah, mainstream media also always points out when Russia negotiates in bad faith, but we never get the same coverage about Israel. And like, there have been less opportunities for Russia to even behave in bad faith because there's just been less negotiation talks in this process. Israel has like actively lied more than 40 times. Hundreds of times in total, but like 40 official ceasefire negotiations on the table, and they fucked it up every single time. They've done what Russia is doing right now to Donald Trump, dangling like a potential ceasefire while simultaneously having no interest in continuing with like a reasonable solution to this conflict. And they just keep lying over and over again. And our media also, literally, if they were covering Russia's actions as though Russia was like Israel, they would keep saying like, well, Russia wants a ceasefire, but those pesky little Ukrainians constantly want sovereignty. Is really fucked up. Which, by the way, if the State Department change in attitude holds, you will probably start seeing that. That's what I was trying to imply with the way that the New York Times is covering Ukrainian positions and how they're losing territory to a final Russian push right now. So maybe it won't be that far in the distance when you will hear the media offer cover to Russia dangling ceasefire as a carrot and pulling back, just like Israel does, and then have favorable coverage on that part and make Ukraine look like they are the spoiling party here.
While trying to get aid, while others have passed away from malnutrition. And there's also, Diane, been new condemnation over the deaths of 6 journalists after an Israeli airstrike. Well-known correspondent from Al Jazeera, Anas al-Sharif, was among those killed. Israel claimed that he was a Hamas terrorist.
Yeah. It's like, can you imagine anytime someone talks about like how unjustifiable Russia's invasion of Ukraine is, you just hear, don't you think Russia has a right to exist? Don't you think Russia has a right to exist? You're being Russophobic. You're being Russophobic. Wow, you hate Slavs. You know who else hated Slavs? Hitler. Why don't you think Russia has a right to exist?
The Al Jazeera network vehemently denying those allegations. And Diane, the United Nations has condemned what happened, calling it a violation of international law.
And Marcus, it seems hopes are growing that there could be a ceasefire back on the table soon. What are you watching for?
The thing is that's what tankies online say on a daily basis. Brother, you're fucking out of your mind if you think that there is any like serious political movement in this country that is like that is so insignificant. Like, you're talking about 10 total people online, okay? That's it. In America, there are certainly a lot more people. This is what I try to explain to people. Like, there's a lot of animosity, understandable animosity in the global South against the United States of America. So for many of those people, they see it as like, oh, this is the enemy of my enemy. Like, they see, and this is incorrect, but they see Russia's actions as like the only country to violently push back against American influence and American incursion. That's the way they see it. That's the reason why you see so many other countries around the world, not in the Western world, okay, but outside of the Western world. That's why you see so many countries assume the pro-Palestine, pro-Russia position. That's real. There's a real position. They see Russia as like the tip of the spear. A country that is like offering military pushback to America in a somewhat successful manner. Of course, they do not see Ukrainians as being used and abused in this process, ironically enough, which is precisely the position that they've been in time and time again, for the record. Like, if you're from a country that's been fucked over by Western Empire, then you should be perhaps even more supportive of the situation that Ukrainians have found themselves in currently. But ultimately, as far as like the Western world goes, the number of people that are fucking pro-Russia are a handful, and they're not. They're so inconsequential that there's no reason to even bring attention to those people
on that front.
Yeah, so these discussions have continued throughout all of this, albeit much of the discussions have been back channel, but there are reports that the leader of Hamas will be in Cairo for talks with officials on a potential ceasefire. And right now it's unclear what, if any, progress has been made there. But certainly for many, the hope is that a ceasefire deal could be back on the table. But when you look at what's happening on the ground, Diane, it really does seem like any deal is quite far off.
All right, Marcus Moore, thank you.
Israel has defended killing 6 journalists in Gaza, claiming one was a terrorist currently working with Hamas. The IDF says Al Jazeera journalist Anas al-Sharif was an active Hamas military wing operative, that he received a salary from the group, and that what they've presented publicly is only a small declassified portion of intelligence. 4 of al-Sharif's colleagues from Al Jazeera, as well as another independent journalist, were killed in the same strike in an attack widely condemned by organisations advocating for the freedom of the press. Well, we are joined now by Nadav Shoshani, a spokesperson for the IDF. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Shoshani. Why is the IDF killing journalists? The CPJ accuses Israel of directly targeting and killing at least 20 journalists and media workers since October the 7th. The latest, as we've just heard, an entire Al Jazeera crew at the weekend.
Fred, thank you for having me, Jen. First of all, I want to say the IDF does not target journalists. In this strike from 2 days ago, the IDF targeted a Hamas terrorist, an active Hamas terrorist. His position, he had a few positions in the Hamas terror organization, but he was part of their rocket brigade. He was a head of a cell in their rocket brigade, and that's who we target. And I think the question needs to be asked, why is Hamas and why is Al Jazeera having terrorists on their payroll working as journalists? And why are terrorists also functioning as journalists with press justice? I think that those are questions that need to be very alarming, and we need to ask them about what's going on in Gaza. But the IDF does not target journalists.
What evidence do you have that he was currently, and that word currently is important, working for Hamas?
Yeah, it's like, heads up, clinkers are out full force trying to create some bullshit that ties him to Hamas. I already know that he took a photo with fucking the Politburo and Yahya Sinwar. That's what they're saying. Like, I know. Now the IDF is claiming that Anas al-Sharif was getting a paycheck from Hamas. Think about how stupid they assume you are to believe that. As the BBC recently reported, and as common sense tells you, Hamas doesn't send out paychecks. They have agents secretly meet employees in cafes and elsewhere and hand over envelopes that have a small percentage of what they're owed in cash, whether you're doing sanitation or anything else. Anas is maybe the most recognizable face in Gaza, and he was getting paid by Al Jazeera. Israel expects you to believe that he secretly sneaked away from his Al Jazeera job to meet an agent who would hand over a few shekels. The man was on air constantly. When did this happen? Anyway, when they think you're an idiot, and in many cases they are correct, but not in most. They're literally trying to say that in between the time frame when this dude was like 24/7 live, he was actually doing terrorism for Hamas, which is so fucking crazy. Because if you ask Ahmed Fouad al-Khatib, another Palestinian collaborator of Israel, who works for the Atlantic Council, as you guys know, his collaboration with Hamas was actually when he was doing journalism. Eventually, they're going to arrive at that position where they're going to say, oh, he actually was doing Hamas activity by doing journalism, as in sending a drone overhead when to show Israeli positions when Israel told him not to. That's his job. His job is to fucking cover the events that are going on. The playbook. They make up a lie. There's no evidence for it. Western journalists spread it like wildfire. Diplomats and politicians parrot it loudly. A narrative is built. The general public believes that the damage is done. Then they finally admit it never happened. This was on October 10th, 2023. Mohammed El-Kurd today says, and we fall for it every time without fail. Whether about Anas al-Sharif or Shireen Abu Akleh, Israelis don't spew their lies because they believe them. They do it because they know they can bait us into pointless debates that distract from the focal point, their crimes. Sure, that Telegram screenshot is fake, but that's not the point. Whether Anas celebrated October 7 is irrelevant. Why accept the premise that people can be murdered just for their views? Even if he handed out candy in celebration, nothing justifies killing him. I saw someone well-intentioned trying to rebut Hasbara by saying it doesn't really look like Anas in the picture with Sinwar. So what if it were him? What are you implying? Exactly. That's my point. Like, what are we doing? What is happening here? That it's like, oh, well, it's actually totally justifiable to kill a fucking journalist because he took photos of fucking Yahya Sinwar? What are you, insane? The ADL is mad that the president of the Foreign Press Association for saying he doesn't care that it's Hamas. Outrageous statement from FPA New York's Ian Williams equating Hamas, an officially designated terrorist organ that massacred to U.S. political parties. This dangerous normalization has no place in journalism. Keep chirping. Keep chirping. There is going to be more people that fucking arrive at this position eventually. Photos can be doctored too? No, it's not. It's not a doctored photo. Hassan Aslia also had photos with fucking Yahya Sinwar. What do you mean? They are the governing party in Gaza. It's like a fucking journalist taking a photo with like Cory Booker or some shit, okay? What are you talking about? What are we talking about? That's it. That's it. There's no world where you go, sorry, you took a photo with fucking Joe Biden. You get to be assassinated now. What? This is a ridiculous framing, okay? This is a ridiculous fucking framing. What are we doing? Stop eating the fucking propaganda dick, okay? It does not matter. It literally does not matter. Israel cannot kill someone because they don't like them. That is fucking ridiculous. Israel can't kill someone for thought crimes. That is not allowed. That is insane. What the fuck? Why is it different? Why is it different when they're Palestinian? Why is it different? That's where the terrorism designation kicks in. It is a way to justify any amount of war crimes that you can do to a captive population of Palestinians. They're brown, they're terrorists, they're scary, they're Muslim, therefore they deserve to die. Stop arguing with fucking idiots. It's not about arguing with idiots. It's about having arguments on idiots' terms. Yeah, I mean, I've said it from the first moment. A former Wall Street journalist shared a post saying just because a guy shot some rockets at Israelis with his followers as if it was verified despite no evidence. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm curious, though, what do you have to say about Islam having a part in the Quran about killing non-believers? Yes, dude, that's what I'm here to do, okay? As a Muslim, I'm secretly invested in this idea that you fucking came up with. That's what Muslims are invested in doing. We don't entertain idiotic fucking assessments about like the Talmud or whatever, and we correctly declare it anti-Semitic when people do it. But God forbid, it's fucking open season when motherfuckers come in here and they're like, oh no, what do you think? What do you think about Muslims wanting to kill non-believers, dude? Yeah, that's why I'm here. That's my primary purpose here. As a Muslim, I'm doing taqiyya and sheltering you from the truth about my religious perspectives, my religious belief. Jesus Christ. Palestine was at its most peaceful position when Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived there under the banner of the Islamic Caliphate that was controlled by the Ottoman Empire. What the fuck do you mean? If we're not stoning people for mixing fabrics, if we're not stoning people to death for mixing fabrics, I think it's a really idiotic assessment to assume that this is something that people are following on and not a fucking idiotic, out of context, misunderstood sentiment. A Exclusive. The White House plans to conduct a far-reaching review of Smithsonian Museum exhibitions, materials, and operations ahead of America's 250th anniversary to ensure the museums align with President Trump's interpretation of American history. Nice. Hell yeah.
At the time of his death, because the information that you have released to us dates back to 2019, the information that the IDF has released to the public. Why are you not able to release information that shows that he was currently working with Hamas?
Right. So there's many types of intelligence within Gaza. There's many types of intelligence that the IDF has about what's happening in Gaza. One of them, what we showed to the public, are papers that our forces were able to find in different locations within Gaza. Those are easy to declassify, relatively easy. There are more complex, more.
He's not even doing a good job. Why is this person on television? Why? It doesn't make any fucking... Oh, God, I hate this shit so much. Still, 22 months in, still, we have to get an Israeli fucking terrorist, a baby killer. We have to get an Israeli baby killer on TV to contextualize why this baby had to be killed. Okay? 22 months in, it's a fucking genocide, and motherfuckers are still doing this shit.
Delicate intelligence that we have to treat very carefully, because intelligence that you declassify, if you do it in an uncareful manner, you can't use it the next time. And it's important for us to save life and to have relevant, real-time intelligence. I don't think it's easy to find a specific person in the Gaza Strip, and we're able to do that. We're able to have intelligence on who's a terrorist and who's not, and it's important for us to keep that ability. That means that you can't declassify everything you have. But we know in real time, in the time of the strike, that he was an active terrorist in Hamas. He was, in addition to intelligence, we have of things he was doing and conducting. We also have intelligence of the fact that he was on a Hamas payroll while he was on an Al Jazeera payroll. And I remind you, Al Jazeera, journalists that support the terror organization Hamas, he was both. He was, most important...
Can I just stop you there? Just as a journalist, I would say that Al Jazeera do not say that they support terrorists Hamas. Al Jazeera is an international news organisation, and it certainly doesn't support any particular side.
Al Jazeera had reporters within Hamas, within Israel, on October 7th with Hamas. Al Jazeera are broadcasting Hamas propaganda. Al Jazeera are working for Hamas when they have...
Al Jazeera are using journalists inside Gaza because, all...
It's a barrage. Al Jazeera is Hamas. UN is Hamas. You are Hamas. Sky News is Hamas. Everyone is Hamas.
The rest of the international media, Israel will not allow international journalists into Gaza.
Hamas uses Al Jazeera when they run those vile propaganda.
If Clarissa Ward came to Gaza, she would also be Hamas. Everybody's Hamas, baby. Excellent. Excellent technique. Undefeated.
And vile ceremonies with our hostages in the last ceremony. And I think Al Jazeera is far from condemning.
Yeah, remember when that was like a fucking massive incident where they were like, I can't believe they're like releasing our hostages with fanfare, as opposed to the way we released their hostages in the dead of the night, quietly, as they are literally fucking starving when we have all the food. That was really fucked up. Remember when that was a point of contention?
Hamas, and Hamas is a terror organization. So if they're supporting Hamas, they're supporting terror, and we should call it by what it is. And yet, that is not the reason we conduct.
For the record, and I can't believe we're even having this conversation, I don't know if Anas al-Sharif actually celebrated October 7 or not. I don't believe anything that Israel says on principle, okay? But even if he were to have done so, you can't fucking kill him. What are you talking about? What are we talking about? Like, what is that even, like, what do you mean? Once again, if Israel's standards for combat were applied evenly against Israel, You could literally nuke Tel Aviv. You could nuke the entirety of Israel, and it would be considered a just act of war by Israel's standards because Israel has mandatory conscription. Israel has numerous politicians that have actively fucking engaged in war crimes. You have former IDF, Israeli occupying force veterans. You have current Israeli occupying force soldiers. You have their wives and their children living in the same fucking buildings as them. Okay? This is not a normal precedent to set. It is fucking insane. That's it. That's it. That's like, there's no world where this is a normal standard, okay? Because Israel's doing a fucking genocide.
The strike. We conducted the strike against the Hamas terrorist who was in active duty in Hamas, receiving paycheck.
What was his active role within Hamas?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I mean, it's such a stupid argument, but like, what was he doing? Pointing a camera at the slain children that Israel was murdering? Was that his role in Hamas?
Well, what was his active role within Hamas?
He had two roles. One of them was head of a cell in their rocket launching brigade in northern Gaza. He had more roles, also kind of related to information and things like that. But most importantly, he was part of their
Why
rocket
can't you
launching
release this
brigade
information in a
northern
declassified
Gaza.
fashion?
And I want to say something. That rocket launching brigade in northern Gaza also tries to fire rockets towards Israeli civilians. But also, and you know, we've had casualties in northern Gaza. There's active fighting in northern Gaza. Sadly, we've had casualties in
He's crazy, man. He was a real go-getter. How did he have time to do all of this? It's so wild. Fuck it. Keep making it up. He had a nuke. Huh? What would you say to that, huh? What if I were to tell you Anas al-Sharif had a nuclear weapon and he was going to press the button on the nuke? What now? Yeah, he was a rocket launcher specialist in northern Gaza, which of course he was killed in southern Gaza in a tent with other Al Jazeera journalists. I guess he was at two places at the same fucking time. He was just able to move through the tunnel network. You want to nuke Israel? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's unacceptable. Israel's standards are unacceptable. Just a few more random instances where prominent Israeli media channels refer to Anas al-Sharif as a terrorist. Channel 12 News, the IDF eliminated a Hamas terrorist who served as a senior Al Jazeera journalist. Israel Hayom, a hug from Sinwar and documents in Gaza. The IDF proves the eliminated journalist was a terrorist. Haaretz, the IDF, we've killed an Al Jazeera reporter in Gaza, served as a unit commander in Hamas. By the way, Haaretz also engaging in that atrocity. 2 terrorists in 1 photo. The incriminating footage of the journalist eliminated in Gaza from Channel 14. The Air Force attacked a tent of journalists, among them a reporter that the IDF revealed to be a Hamas operative. Ma'ariv, journalist in service of Hamas. Al Jazeera's most well-known face in Gaza has been eliminated. Khan News, a journalist and a terrorist. The storm following the elimination of Anas al-Sharif. Fuck you, man. Your accents give me PTSD. Read my previous post, but went to a Psytrance event and hearing an Israeli say babies of terror in real life gave me chills. I hate your accent now because it brings that feeling back. Well, that's your fault for going to a Psytrance festival, which is now officially, it's like how the Nazis made the swastika their own and now no one can use the swastika as a fucking symbol of peace. Israelis have owned Psytrance. If you listen to Psytrance, you're basically spiritually Israeli. Sorry. They took it. They took it for themselves. Yeah. Psytrance and Star of David are now stained with Israel's bloodshed. They literally fucking used tanks to put the Star of David in the middle of the fucking Gaza Strip in apartment complexes they took down with the Israeli Air Force. I-24 News. Undercover as Al Jazeera journalists, 2 Hamas terrorists have been eliminated. Unsurprisingly, these are not some innocent media persons. Anas al-Sharif served as a unit commander in the terror organization, and there are many documents to prove it. Again, they just fucking keep repeating over and over and over again. Why you gotta be so hateful? I hate Nazis, man. I fucking hate Nazis. I don't know why this is so hard for people to fucking comprehend. I despise Nazis. I fucking despise fascists, okay? Israel is a fascist Nazi country doing a fucking Holocaust that is live streamed in real time. We get to see it every fucking day, okay? That's it. It's that simple. Israel's a fucking Nazi country, and its defenders are Nazis themselves. They are doing a Holocaust.
Fighting there in northern Gaza, and there are people, Hamas terrorists, fighting mortar shells from those rocket brigades against IDF, and it's very common practice for IDF when we're operating in an area to go after people in the rocket brigade to make sure that we have freedom of movement, freedom of operation, and that those people are eliminated.
I'm just struggling to understand why you cannot release this information in a declassified fashion. You've released...
Because it's fake. Because they need time to doctor it, okay? They need time to doctor it, which I will never believe. I will literally... If Israel... I'm telling you right now, get mad at me if you want. If Israel fucking showed me a photo of like Yahya Sinwar with a fucking envelope of cash, handing it directly to Anas al-Sharif, I would still not believe it, okay? There's no way. There's no way. I'm not a fucking moron, okay? I'm sorry. They've lied far too much for me to ever take anything that Israel says seriously. They've lied far too much while defending their genocidal actions, while defending their genocide. They are doing a genocide. If you are even a remotely reasonable person, you would look at this and go, okay, fuck you. Suck my dick.
The information that you've released already is very old.
Again, there are specific types of intelligence that are very delicate and are very complex to declassify. We can speak of them in some sort of paraphrase. It's more complex than that to explain the process of declassifying intelligence. It's a long process, very complex, and you need to keep your sources of intelligence active and not harm them by taking out information from them in a way that would harm those sources from functioning.
As you know, the International Committee of Journalists, which is an independent non-profit organisation based in America that promotes press freedom worldwide, absolutely refutes the allegations that you're making about Anas al-Sharif, as did he when he's alive. Based on their dealings with him, he also refuted your allegations whilst he was alive. Isn't the burden of proof on the IDF to prove this now?
Well, I think, first of all, we've put out documentation that we found in Gaza. We put out the original papers in Arabic that we found in Gaza proving he is a terrorist. And I don't think in any case in the world, anyone would take someone's word as just saying, hey, I'm not a terrorist. Okay, we believe you. And that's exactly what happened in this case. That's what's happening in this case. And I think it's just very easy and comfortable. And to be honest, you've been fair in this segment presenting him as we say that we claim he's a terrorist, but in many outlets they don't even present IDF proof that we put. If you don't believe it, it's okay, but do your job and present it. And more than that,
do your job. Every person that is remotely connected to Israel, the Israeli state, has this insane attitude of arrogance and entitlement. What do you mean, do your fucking job? I mean, if she was doing her job, she would have shut off this conversation. She would have just never had this conversation to begin with. I don't think it's a productive conversation to literally have a fucking Nazi 4-star general at the age of 22 come on the broadcast and fucking defend the Holocaust. Okay? It's ridiculous. Yeah, why aren't you just taking my Nazi ass statements at face value? Why aren't you doing that?
Person who celebrated the death of civilians, I think it's worth mentioning. He's not this angel. people are speaking about. He's a terrorist, and in addition to that, he has been promoting terror, supporting terror in his job as a journalist. I saw yesterday a picture of him celebrating the death of civilians on October 7th. I think that's important to be said. But more importantly than that, he was an active terrorist in Hamas, receiving salary from Hamas, hence a target in this war that Hamas started and is refusing to end.
Okay, and just to reiterate, this is something that he and his employer all denies. There were 7 other people killed in that attack, including another Al Jazeera correspondent, Mohammed Kreke, and the camera operators, Ibrahim Zaher, Mohammed Dufal and Momen Aliwa. Is the IDF's position that all 5 of those journalists who were killed were also working for Hamas, or are they just collateral damage?
We're looking into further details of the incidents, and when we speak about and we classify someone as a terrorist, it's after a long, rigorous process and after declassification, and that's what we've done. And about the additional people, we're still looking into the incident, and we'll hopefully be able to provide more information soon.
But clearly you must have understood that there was a risk if you're going to drop a bomb into a tent containing a load of journalists, that more than the one that you are trying to attack would perish.
Well, we conduct our operations, and as you see, he wasn't with his family, and we try and conduct our operations in a way that goes after terrorists in the most minimal way. I don't want to speak or before it's
but if
verified and declassified.
If you kill 8 people when you're aiming for one, is that the most minimal way? Killing 8 if you're aiming for one.
Of more combatants alongside him, but I don't want to speak about things before they're declassified and verified, and I want to be very responsible.
So you're saying that you're going to release information about some of these other people that were killed now?
I'm saying there's a process of declassification, of verification, and I want to be very responsible. And I'll just say that we're looking into further details of the additional people and further details of this strike.
Okay. You may also have seen a special report that we're running today by my colleague Stuart Ramsey about what is happening in the West Bank and the encirclement of towns like Sinjar. Can I ask, why is the IDF closing and opening gates to villages and towns like Sinjar randomly and without warning? What is the security protocol there? Because it's really disrupting locals' lives, making life incredibly difficult.
Well, I think, first of all, the IDF policy in Judea and Samaria is to make sure that in any clash between civilians, Jews to Palestinians, and other way, that we keep the safe and order, the order in place, that we keep civilians on both sides safe, that we prevent these types of clashes. That's been our policy.
Occupied Palestinian territory, also known as the West Bank. It's illegally occupied by you and your buddies. Judea and Samaria, suck my dick. Here, Yuval Abraham reports on exactly the initiative being taken right now by the IDF. This, after October 7, Israel established a legitimization cell. Intelligence personnel searched for info to provide legitimization for our army's actions. The primary mission for the cell was to find Gaza journalists who could be portrayed in the media as Hamas operatives in disguise. Here's Yuval Abraham of 972 magazine in Israel. After October 7, a team called the Legitimization Cell was established in Amman. Intelligence personnel searched for information to provide legitimization for the army's actions in Gaza. Failed Hamas launches, use of human shields, exploitation of the civilian population, all the things you're familiar with. A primary mission of the Legitimization Cell was to find Gazan journalists who could be portrayed in the media as Hamas operatives in disguise. They actively went through journalists and searched. Entire days were invested in this matter. They found nothing. Why look for a journalist in disguise? As I understand it, because it provides media legitimization for the existing killing of journalists in general. After all, it's enough to present one hospital as Hamas headquarters, and you can paint the destruction of the entire healthcare system in the same light. One failed shot where Hamas hit civilians, and then, who knows, maybe all civilian deaths are on Hamas. Sowing doubt as a method to justify atrocities. Identifying a journalist as an operative in disguise whitewashes the killing of all other journalists. The army killed 4 journalists in Gaza last night. It admitted that the target was Anas al-Sharif. In the past 2 years, al-Sharif has been doing systematic, courageous journalistic work, reporting to the entire world about the destruction of his people. This while most Israeli journalism has normalized mass murder, starvation, and destruction, betraying its profession. The betrayal continues now in the headlines reporting al-Sharif's death, fully adopting the IDF spokesperson's statement. The army presented documents claiming al-Sharif joined Hamas in 2013 when he was 17. A journalist who doesn't question the IDF spokesperson's statements at this stage, after countless lies, is simply failing in their duty. But even if we assume it's true, it doesn't matter. By that logic, the vast majority of journalists in Israel, if there's some documents showing that they served in the army or did reserve duty at some point, would be legitimate targets for elimination. His location was known for months. Why kill him now, on the eve of plans to conquer Gaza City? The answer is clear. I think Israel killed Anas al-Sharif simply because he was a journalist. The documents were the means. For the same reason, they actively searched for journalists who could be presented as Hamas operatives to provide legitimization for the killing of journalists in general. About 230 journalists we've killed in Gaza since October 7. And for the same reason, international media is prevented from entering Gaza, so that the crimes are less seen. This is Israeli journalist and Israeli investigative reporter Yuval Abraham for Plus 972 magazine, reporting on the legitimization cell. It's all fucking bullshit. Everything Israel is saying is bullshit. The notion that he has taken photos with Hamas leaders is not a justification for his extrajudicial assassination. It's not a justification to even punch him in the fucking face. What are you doing? Suck my dick. 10 toes fucking down. Once again, these are the types of things that I feel like people took advantage of for the longest time. That you couldn't just like say that. You could be like, what do you mean? He took photos with Hamas. Of course he can be fucking killed. No, that's not the truth. That's not the case. You can't fucking do that. If someone were to entertain a role reversal in this regard and put Israel in the crosshairs, you would cry about how anti-Semitic this is. It's so fucking stupid.
And specifically in some
You guys voted for Trump. Ha ha ha. Does it make it easier to fantasize about a thing that did not happen so that you can feel more comfortable in your position of not giving a fuck about Palestinians? Like, even at this stage,
we can speak about every specific incident and looked at. Specifically in Sanjil, there were many, many incidents where people were hurling rocks to the main road by the village. Hence, a fence was built.
No, the liberals have lost their minds. I've been seeing like people post my statements on like Kamala Harris's lack of interest in like saying anything about Palestine and how that actually led to her fucking losing the election. And liberals keep posting that over and over again without context to make it seem like I'm saying like Kamala Harris would do the same thing as far as like, taking away a gay marriage or something. Like whenever Trump does some other fuck shit, something that I'm like actively fucking pushing back against, when they're not doing that, they're too busy trying to fucking tarnish the reputation of someone who is actually fucking anti-Trump because they're not, clearly. And they use my criticisms of Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party in general and their closeness to Trump's policies, which led them to lose against Donald Trump, as a way to say, oh, dude, look, see, the left is actually in the wrong still. I'm not in the wrong at all. It was actually totally valid. Totally fucking valid that Kamala Harris hugged and kissed Republicans like Liz Cheney and presented herself as like a more moderate force to the more moderate but still right-wing force, and overall refused to do anything that would change the trajectory from our double suicide pact with Israel. It's so strange, dude. If at this point your hyper focus is still on like trying to prove to yourself and others around you that you weren't wrong and that this leftist political commentator on Twitch was actually wrong for correctly identifying many of the issues with the Kamala Harris campaign because he didn't want fucking Donald Trump to win again. But in the aftermath of that victory for Trump, in the aftermath of all of that, when Trump is like doing a fucking forcible fascist takeover of the American government, okay, and you're still worried about a fucking left-wing Twitch streamer who was right all along, you're a fucking moron. You're the reason. You are part of the reason why these guys get to do whatever the fuck they want. It blows my goddamn mind that liberals are still trying to fucking do that.
You know, those rocks have killed people driving in cars, caused car accidents that led to death and many injuries. And that's a threat on security. And generally speaking, our policy has been very clear. We do not limit movement as a goal to limit movement. We take steps to provide security. We take steps to...
Great argument. Yeah, but this is why single issue voting is dog water. Great argument. Kamala Harris literally lost partially because her inability to address the violence that was unfolding in Gaza was emblematic of the Democratic Party's unwillingness to actually listen to the demands being made by its own base of support. She literally tied herself by the neck to a fucking anchor like Joe Biden. It's been months since she took a fucking fat L against a goddamn rapist felon who is a fucking literal fascist and a fascist that lost once, by the way. A fascist that was president once already and then lost. Took a fat fucking L. Where has she been? Nowhere. Nowhere to be found. Just writing a fucking book. You're so stupid. You will never actually be able to understand the argument that I'm presenting because you're just unable to hear what I'm saying. You just go, oops, sorry. Vote blue no matter who. Not understanding that that kind of fucking rewarding of failure is how we got here to begin with. It's so crazy. Kamala Harris does not lose because of single issue voters, you fucking moron. There is no analysis that points to that for the record. That's so crazy. The idea that it's like you have to create this like false notion. There's even less evidence. There was at least a concerted effort in the aftermath of Hillary Clinton's defeat in 2016 to present Bernie Bros as the major reason why Donald Trump lost. Kamala Harris lost the fucking popular vote too.
Deconflict when there's conflicts in the area, and we make sure that we do it with as little as possible limitations on the people from both sides in this region.
If you well know, as a result of the Oslo Accords, it divided up the West Bank into three areas: Area A, B, and C. Area A, these are areas governed by the Palestinian Authority and its security services. Israeli forces aren't meant to be in these areas. They have access to areas B and C. You must know this. Why are the IDF shutting down markets and
See, look at this fucking active cope. But you guys voted, but you let Trump win. Virtually every single person here voted for Kamala Harris, you dumb fuck. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, a Twitch streamer cannot fucking change the trajectory of American politics if the Democratic Party is unable and unwilling to listen to the demands being made by its fucking base of support. Kamala Harris pushed people to stay home. It is ultimately always going to be the fault of the party. Stop trying to defend the party. The party does not give a fuck about you. Do you work for the DNC? Show me your motherfucking pay stubs. Why the fuck are you defending the DNC for free? What is wrong with you? Kamala Harris lost 7 fucking swing states, dude. What are we talking about? What is this argument? It's so insane. It is so, like, I can't comprehend it. I can't understand it. These guys, these liberals, they fancy themselves to be more intelligent than the average Trump supporter. And yet here you are regurgitating idiotic arguments like you're a fucking Trump supporter, but this time for the Democratic Party. Kamala Harris could not fail. She could only be made to fail. Failed by who? The voters who didn't understand that she would be far better. It's like, no, that's her fault. It's her fault for not being able to present herself as a better alternative to a fucking rapist fascist, brother. What are we talking about?
That allows settlers and Orthodox Jews to walk freely in areas that the signs on the street say are very clearly for Israelis not to enter under Israeli law.
Well, I think I should look into that incident and understand the details, but Hebron specifically...
We've been running footage of it all day.
Hebron, I've seen the piece. I haven't looked at all of it. I've seen the headline and skimmed through it. It's a very interesting piece. And Hebron specifically is a special area where Hebron, there's a place of religion that is important for Muslims and Jews. So it has a little bit of different standards in Hebron. It's not as simple as you described. And I'd be happy to look into that and check and give explanations to anything happening there. Hebron,
but it's clear the IDF shouldn't be in Areas A, should it?
Hebron specifically is different. Hebron is a place that has a place that is sacred for Jews and both.
Indeed, but under the Oslo Accords, it's classified as Area A.
Yeah, but the situation on the ground and also the agreements and the way that it is, there's security arrangements to make sure that Jews and Muslims can carry out their religion at the same time. It's a much more complex place with security arrangements that are designated specifically and out of the ordinary for this situation where there's a holy place that is both holy for Jews and for Muslims.
Okay, we will leave it there. Nadav Shoshani, thank you very much for joining us.
The West Bank is central to the conflict between Palestine and Israel. For Palestinians, it is basically at the heart of what would be a Palestinian state.
I told you 3 times, this is military territory. Please turn around, turn off the camera and go away.
So we're being filmed now.
They watch us right now.
This is the order. Understand? 3 minutes. That's all.
Okay, I understand.
Goodbye.
So many Israelis, though, they believe that the West Bank should actually belong to Israel, particularly on the right. They actually want to annex the whole of the West Bank.
First, let's get the facts straight. There is no such thing as a Palestinian people.
Recently, countries like the United Kingdom and France have indicated a willingness to recognize the state of Palestine. That would be, if it worked, the two-state solution. The question, though, is it even possible?
We're in Hebron, a major Palestinian city in the West Bank, where Israeli soldiers have arrived to shut down part of the town.
Sorry, sir.
Do you speak English? Yeah. Can you move to here? Because we wanna go back way. So can you move?
Right here, over here.
Yeah. Stay right there. Stay right there, like everybody.
Okay, thank you. Okay, they're closing the town down because they want to go up this street along here, which goes up to a tomb.
Go.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, sir. Thank you.
Back.
A group of Orthodox Jews and settlers want to visit a holy site in the area. It's meant to be off limits to Israelis, but the soldiers are here to make it happen.
Big.
It's obviously massive disruption. This is a massive market. Now the whole of this section of town is being closed down. And the idea is to take control of this street for security reasons so that they can bring the settlers through. They'll put up a screen, yeah?
They're going to put some, cover.
And then they'll walk them up.
And they're going to walk up to the street. But are you reporting live?
No.
We're just for them.
We're videoing, yeah.
Because last time they did this kind of walk into the city, they killed the boy.
Yeah, I heard.
Hold the press here. All right? All right? Don't play with me. All right?
For now, this part of Hebron is a military zone, and nobody at all is allowed past the Israeli lines.
This is Armed Settlers and Segregation Inside the West Bank, a new Sky News documentary that just came out 16 hours ago. No politic here. Israel number one. No Palestine, no Palestine. No Palestine here. No politic here. Bro, they do this shit so much. It's like these things are marginal in comparison to, like, obviously the death and destruction campaign in Gaza, but this is a part of everyday existence for Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. These guys are, one, illegally occupying the West Bank, for the record. And they do this shit on a daily basis. If you like, there are a million videos like this where they just like go into a storefront and just fuck it up and demand the phones of every single Palestinian there. They go through their social media to look for things that they can find that they can arrest them on, like any sort of sympathy or any sort of like mention. These are images not dissimilar to the Gestapo harassing random fucking citizens and packing up Jewish people in Nazi Germany. Yeah. There is no, like, there is little to none armed resistance against these fucking freaks, for the record.
Behind a large,
even though they are terrorists, they are in direct violation of international law, and it is legal. It is literally legal if every single Palestinian there took up arms and started actively fighting against those terrorists, the Israeli occupying force. That is literally legal and moral. Okay? Understand, no matter what all of your previous social conditioning has taught you, understand that what they are doing, regardless of the state violence that they're doing here, what they're doing is illegal. Racist? Why use a racist voice to mock Israelis? I don't know. Because it's funny. They're doing a genocide. Does that hurt your fucking feelings? I agree with you, but I don't think legality is the issue. No, I'm just explaining to people that, like, what they think is legal is obviously seeing armed military, members of the state, members of the fucking military, members of the police force. And automatically we're conditioned into thinking like, oh, what they're doing is a legal thing. Maybe it's racist, but it's like still a legal occupation. It's not. It is completely illegal. Okay? This is not like a police, a member of the police force like being of racist to a citizen. This is like even beyond that. That is abhorrent. That is fucked up. That should be prosecuted. But this is a step beyond that.
green screen, the visitors arrive in small groups to look at a tomb up the street. The Palestinian city of Hebron is in what is known as Area A of the West Bank. It means it's technically under the full control of the...
That chatter literally said, "Why you no love Israel? You are being racist." Like, why use racist voice to mock Israelis? I don't know, because it's a fucking Nazi country doing Nazi shit. You're like a German that comes in here and gets in their feelings when I'm doing like a bad German accent. Is it a F? What happened?
Palestinian Authority. But everyone here says the presence of Israeli soldiers and settlers is designed to make a point, to emphasize who's really in charge. This is a journey around the West Bank, And inevitably it starts at the wall separating Israel from its Palestinian neighbours. It is imposing and is in many ways a symbol of Israel's desire to segregate the people who live on the other side from them. The wall was built over 2 decades ago to stop Palestinian terror attacks inside Israel after a wave of violence. But there is more than a wall to all of this. The West Bank and its people would make up the lion's share of a Palestinian state if one were to be recognized. Geographically, it's on the west bank of the River Jordan, which is where it gets its name from. Current political leadership in Israel does not want a Palestinian state, and the Israeli parliament just approved a motion to annex the West Bank. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen, but it shows the thinking.
Like any kind of violence that Israeli settlers or the Israeli military experiences in the West Bank is literally legal, okay? It is legal resistance against an occupying military force. I cannot repeat this enough. Just like any kind of violence that the Israeli occupying force experiences in the Gaza Strip is actually, once again, totally legal and totally moral resistance by the Palestinians. Doesn't matter if they're the Al-Aqsa Brigade, doesn't matter if they're a part of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, doesn't matter if they're DFLP, PFLP, or even former Fatah militants, okay? It is perfectly legal, perfectly valid, and perfectly moral, okay? 100%. This is not like this is not a gray area. This is black and white, okay? It doesn't get more black and white than this. Israel's in the wrong. Israel is actually engaging in an apartheid, which is a crime in and of itself. Israel's doing a genocide in Gaza and an apartheid in the West Bank. 2 crimes in and of itself. And every type of armed resistance against both the settlers and also the Israeli occupying force in the West Bank. Doesn't matter if it's your favorite podcasters like Wife that participate in these raids. The violence that the Palestinians engage in an act of resistance against this illegal occupying force is literally legal, definitionally legal, okay? It's just the truth. Straight up. It doesn't matter that they look to be in garb that makes you think that they're in the right, okay?
And right now, life is tough for Palestinians in the West Bank. They say they feel powerless. Random military operations, security checks and barriers restricting movement can happen anywhere and at any time, making normal movement impossible. There's the continuous threat of attacks by settlers who believe the land is theirs, and roads to villages and towns are barricaded. The building of iron gates that close off vehicle entry and exit to Palestinian communities has dramatically increased since the October the 7th Hamas attacks on Israel that led to the Gaza war. These gates are monitored 24 hours a day.
This situation is so fucked up that even when like liberal or right-wing Western outlets try to like present it as like a nuanced and complex political situation, I think the takeaway from people is just utter horror. You know? Like the average person sees it and they're like, what do you mean? What nuance, bro? This is fucking insane. Like you can't frame this in a way that is like justifiable for Israel at all. I don't know. Maybe I'm too hopeful about my fellow citizens that encountered this kind of thing for the first time ever.
And are impossible to break through. Beneath the village of Al-Mugaya, we watched as IDF soldiers oversaw a digger working on a roadway.
Well, you can just say anti-Semitism. I think that was an effective method only when people weren't aware of Israel's actions. Like if you were kept in the dark for a very long time about Israel's like most violent actions and its violent mechanisms of control, then yeah, you would hear someone describe what Israel does as a part of its regular policy. You'd be like, well, that sounds a little anti-Semitic, you know? But Israel has looked at the checklist of like anti-Semitic shit and was like, oh, we're going to do it. We're going to do it to the best of our ability. Whichever is within the confines of whatever we can do, whichever technological, like poisoning the well, right? Poisoning the well initially comes from an anti-Semitic canard. The idea that Jews poisoned the well and that's why there's disease. And then it's usually the lie that uneducated villagers literally fucking engaged with before they ended up doing a pogrom, like a violent pogrom of Jews, right? Well, okay, Israel literally destroys water wells. What are we doing? Like, you got settlers straight up trying to poison the fucking well in the West Bank. What are we doing? Like, it's on video. It's not like they're hiding it either. They're just like literally doing it on video and being like, I am poisoning the well. I do not want Palestinians to drink water. They are terror. This is my land. They're not hiding it. They're gloating.
And a new barrier gate being moved into position from the back of a lorry.
My name's Stuart Ramsey. I'm a reporter for Sky News in England.
Okay, and what's the problem here?
No problem, we were just going to go up to the village, but I can see obviously you're putting in a barrier.
Not now. Okay, so no.
Walk here.
It's a military territory, so please turn around and go away.
Okay. Could you just explain though, are you putting in a new gate?
This is classified. Please turn around and go away.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll just be up here.
No. So please turn off the camera, turn around and go away. Thank you very much.
Okay, but
Listen, I told you 3 times. This is military territory. Please turn around, turn off the camera and go away.
All right. Can I go to the village though?
No, you can't.
Is there another way round?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay. I'll leave you at that then.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. Turn off the camera.
Well, obviously there's another gate being built, as simple as that.
They're gonna get fucking shot at, like, eventually.
We expected them to be
because these bitch asses, they're getting way more fucking cocky too.
Friendly, or at least unpleasant.
They're always so skittish and wimpy with these checkpoints. It's almost like they're shamed. I don't know if they're ashamed. I think they're just pussies in general. Only a fucking weakling would do this kind of thing to a captive population. They're fucking cowardly little monsters. The worst kind. Go away. Go away, please.
About it, I suppose they've been reasonable, but that's what happens all over the West Bank. These villages, Palestinian villages.
I don't think those motherfuckers have the capacity to feel shame, bro. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Back. Go back.
As you can see behind me, get cut off by gates, and that'll be closed, and access in and out is totally controlled. But as we've seen before, it gets described as a military area, and therefore you've got no options, because when they say it's a military area, that's it, you're out.
Just as security checks and barrier gates have increased since October the 7th,
Turn off the camera.
so
I would like
has the
to shoot you.
expansion of settler outposts.
Please.
It often starts with a land grab and a flag, then the building of temporary accommodation. And later, they develop into whole towns, heavily guarded and dominating the landscape. I wanted to meet Mohammed Robin, a Palestinian man I'd read about who'd had his land taken off him.
So Mohammed went to work one morning, came back and told he couldn't go back to his house. Now going to follow him, see where he is. Settlers have taken everything apparently from inside the house as well, which is fairly common. But we're going to follow him and see what it's at.
He's taking us to the only place, he says, we can still see his land from without getting into trouble. It's off the main road, on gravel and dirt tracks leading to a windy hilltop.
That's his land.
Yeah.
Whereas the cars are standing now, and they also took over there another 2 dunams.
How long have you been here?
قديش لك أنت؟
عايش هذه الارض بالدار من سنه 52 سيدي بناها وبقت يعني فيش فيها زيتون يعني فيها كده حوالي 500 عرق زيتون.
This land built by his grandfather from 52 and they have olive trees on it.
وابويا زي ما تقول ضل عم يعني استاذ هو بكى بس شيء عم في المصاري اننا نعمر.
His father was a teacher and supporting with money so we can invest on it.
Yeah. There's movement down below and we realise we've been spotted.
Oh, here come the No Politik Here Brigade. Israel's a wonderful, multi-faceted, multicultural country, which is why I'm always wondering, like, what variant of native Levantine accent I'm going to hear out of the mouths of these fucking dipshits. You know what I mean? You can have the classic No Politik Here accent, or you can have a Brooklynite. There's only 2 ways it goes, though, aside from the Hebrew accent. You're only going to hear an American hog variant or a Russian hog variant. One or the other. Let's see.
How are you? Do you speak English?
ما جاء البيت.
Scan your television rated.
جاء البيت عندي على الارض شو المشكلة يعني؟ ايش؟ ترى ما في مشكلة.
We've just come up here because Mohammed's saying that you're onto his land and he's wondering if he's going to get it back. Well, we've introduced ourselves, but I think they're trying to go back down, probably because we're here. They're not making much action, but of course they set us armed. Not quite sure if they're heading back or what they're going to do now. Haven't seemed to want to talk very much. They barely speak, they just check out our cars. We don't know if they're soldiers or settlers or both. They don't identify themselves.
What? They're not soldiers, bro. They're settlers. It's a distinction without a difference in the West Bank, but the soldiers have way more fucking gear. They went nonverbal.
One returns to the small holding, the other waits. We decide to leave.
Hi, Daniel.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Stuart Ramsey.
Daniel Winston. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Where are you going to take us, Daniel?
I'm going to take you up to Har Kabir. Let's come out of the street though, so you don't get hit. I'm going to take you up to Har Kabir. It's the mountain that overlooks the valley of Tirzah, where the Jewish people first came into the land of Israel with Joshua at the end of the 5 books of Moses and the beginning of the rest of the Bible.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Let's go.
You going to come with me in the car?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank
Let's
you.
go.
Daniel Winston is from Chicago, but he's lived here in Israel for over 25 years.
I've chosen to live in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, truly out of a biblical imperative to make this happen and make it happen better, even though the entire world has this mythology around it being occupied territory and being the so-called the land of the Palestinians.
Daniel, his wife and 10 children live in Yitzhar settlement. It's considered one of the most hardcore settler communities. But we weren't allowed to meet him there, so he's taking us to a lookout point in another settlement.
Is there an argument for saying, regardless of those legal definitions, that for many Palestinians living here in the West Bank, that they do feel that they live under a law of apartheid and that they are discriminated against? There's complete control over movement, there's a lack of freedom of movement, and people, settlers, take land that they have occupied themselves for generations.
Yeah, let's talk about each of those things, and I'll try to keep order. First of all, I have no doubt that the Arabs that live here have lots of feelings about lots of things that are going on. I'm not going to, even though I'm a therapist, I'm not going to address those feelings because I'm much more interested in the facts. Afterwards, if we want to have a discussion, we can sit around and we can have some coffee, sit around a campfire and talk about their feelings. But first, let's get the facts straight. The facts are there is no such thing as a Palestinian people. In the historical record, Palestine and the Palestinians does not exist. Just a second. היי אחי, מה נשמע? הכל בסדר. אני מיצהר, מנסה להעביר אותם קצת דברים מעניינים. תודה.
Daniel leads me down a path overlooking a valley in the West Bank. He and the Israeli government call it by its biblical name, Judea and Samaria. Daniel says this valley is where Joshua led the Israelites to the Promised Land, according to the scriptures. He, like all the settlers, believes the land is theirs and rejects any notion of a Palestinian state.
I'm not angry. I'm not a,
Nation states is a relatively new concept in the long history of mankind. So it's really funny that he's like, well, the only states that exist are states that are in the Bible. Okay, America doesn't exist then. Like, what are you talking about? It's so fucking stupid.
Those frothing at the mouth of the settlers who are going to like yell and scream and like, start throwing things at you because I don't like what you're saying. I don't like what you're saying because what you're saying is wrong. It is not consistent with a historical record. There was never a Palestinian state. Even if I were to say, okay, well, these poor people, they have to do something. They have to go somewhere. And I would say, well, not on my account, not on my watch, because not only is it not only is it inimical to my essential national interest of settling the entire land of Israel, it's also an intrinsic danger, a clear and present danger to our physical survival.
Nazi.
Daniel struck me as well-mannered and well-read, but his views on the modern day, like many of the settlers, are thousands of years old.
Really? That's the only thing you got on his views on the... Dog, you're talking to a Jewish Nazi. These guys have this seeming inability to recognize that, like, the person that they're talking to is a fucking neo-Nazi, The fact that this is a therapist with a gun didn't even ring any alarm bells in this person's mind, seemingly.
Khalil Hathaleen greets a family friend who's come to pay his respects. His brother's been shot dead, allegedly by a settler. We're in the village of al-Kir, where Palestinian villagers confronted an Israeli digger driver on Palestinian land adjacent to a settler town. 35-year-old Auda Hathaleen was killed. As the mourners gather, The Israeli army moves in.
Sir, can you explain why we have to leave?
כדי לשמור על הסדר באזור.
I'm sorry?
English. תתרגמו, אני בטוח שתמצאו מישהו שיתרגם את הדברים שלי מצוין.
To keep the place quiet. To keep the place quiet.
It does seem quite...
That motherfucker knows English, okay? Let me tell you. Second most common language in Israel. Third is Russian. Almost all Israelis speak English, okay? Some of them are directly from England or America, but that's besides the point. Yes. In Israel, the most commonly spoken language obviously is Hebrew. Second most common is English. And the third most common is Russian. Yeah. They came from South Africa, America, England.
Quiet, basically. At the moment, I would say.
אוקיי, להוציא אותה מפה וללכת מעבר לרכב הלבן שחונה שם. עכשיו.
Why are you playing this Hasbara nonsense? Isn't there a documentary from the true Palestinian point of view that you play to your viewers to learn the truth? What? First of all, I cover Hasbara on a daily fucking basis. And part of the reason why I'm showing this is because despite the fact that this guy's trying to engage in like some wishy-washy both sides bullshit here, the inhumanity is so clear that like your takeaway will never be pro-Israeli at any point.
עכשיו, כל מי שלא תושב המקום, לקום, לקחת את הרכבים ולהוציא אותם מחוץ ליישוב.
They give everyone who doesn't live here 10 minutes to leave or risk arrest. Many of these journalists are Israeli, and they argue that being moved on is basically illegal. Soldiers enter the family area of the village. They're looking for foreign activists and anyone else to clear.
3 minutes you need to go from here.
Okay.
Unless you want to be arrested, okay?
But why?
Just, this is the order. Understand? 3 minutes. That's all.
Okay, I understand.
Goodbye.
So can you explain to me, though, and you, but can you explain to me why? We're journalists, sir. This type of thing happens all the time. It's the main point of contention from the Palestinians, is that the security forces in Israel represent only the settlers in the West Bank, not them at any point. And they feel really aggrieved about it. And there is really no actual argument for saying why we should leave. It's just they don't want them to be near an Israeli settlement.
Declaring the area a closed military zone, a regular tactic, the soldiers are in no mood to compromise.
Just one question.
Amongst the activists, Israeli Yehuda Shaul. He's straight to the point.
At the end of the day, this Israeli government doesn't want only to kill the possibility of a future Palestinian state besides Israel. It wants to cement Israeli sovereignty between the river and the sea. Rights for one group of people here. I think in Afrikaans it's called apartheid. Now the question is whether the international community will allow my government to implement its plan. Up to now, all what we've heard was statements, warnings, concerns. That's not enough. Unless we're going to see a serious move to tangible measures in order to end this kind of behavior, this will just escalate.
I wasn't here. Can you tell me what's happening?
You have new area that you can be there. You need go there.
Okay, but the senior officer said we could stay here.
כן, המפקד אמר שיכולים לחכות פה, ואז יעשה לנו בריפינג. They just make the closed military area bigger or wider, and you have to leave this area as well.
Why? Why is it bigger? Why is it a closed military area they're extending?
I'm not a commander.
I mean, they are in charge here, and they're pretty serious about this. I think
While the journalists are arguing and are accepting that you probably can't stay, once they declare an area military closed zone, there's actually nothing you can do about that. We've seen that lots of times. Since the Gaza war happened, the whole areas would be closed off.
Should we go?
Yeah.
You took the guy name and title
Yeah.
or what? What he's doing?
Sorry. That's crazy.
The soldiers throw blast bombs and try to clear everyone out.
Listen, I've been there, okay?
One activist is arrested for not leaving.
Told you they get shot
Her friend attempts to reach her and she's arrested too. The closed military zone gets larger. There's been so much conflict between Israelis and Palestinians that the maps of it have been bound into an atlas. Britain is one country threatening to recognise the state of Palestine and is calling for a two-state solution, where Israel and Palestine live side by side. Even if it's not true, even if the idea is good. I've come to meet Yossi Belin, who's one of the architects of the original plan. He's a rare voice of optimism. He's also a voice of warning to Israel.
If you don't want to solve the Israeli-Palestinian problem, you will always have good enough reasons on both sides why never to do that. But if you want to solve the problem, you will solve it.
Are we getting to a tipping point whereby you just can't have a two-state solution because there's too many there, too many who won't agree, and no sort of pan-nation support for it? Do we get to a point where it can't happen?
We are in a situation whereby both sides need the two-state solution badly. The Palestinians, because this is the only way for them to fulfill their vision of self-determination. For the Israelis, it is the only way to have a border unless we do it unilaterally. And we already know that unilateral decisions about borders are not usually fulfilled. So we need an agreement about a border in order to assure that Israel is a Jewish and democratic state. Otherwise, we are doomed.
I'd heard about Sinjar, a Palestinian town, I was told, that was cut off from the outside world. It isn't yet completely surrounded, but a 5-metre-high metal fence around its eastern edge indicates the direction it's going. We enter the town on a small road that is the only exit and entry now available to the 8,000 residents. The main entry point has been permanently shut by the Israeli army. We stop to check we're on the right road. It's the first town on the West Bank to be slowly encircled, and many here believe it won't be the last. Israel says it's to protect the main road from attack by stone-throwing villagers. Security concerns are used as a catch-all reasoning for virtually everything here. It's a particularly vivid example of Israeli segregation. You're not completely surrounded, but almost.
Yes. They're going to continue and isolate all the town.
Mutaz Touafsha is the mayor of Sinjar. He tells me people who live here have two big issues. One is settlers, and the other is the fence and barricaded gates.
This is the main entrance.
Okay, so this is a main gate into your town, but also to other people as well.
Yes, yes. This is the main entrance for 22,000 people from Sinjil,
Jesus Christ,
Jlijliya, Abwain, Arura, Mazar al-Nubani. They close it on October 7. We have, by the way, we have the gate before October 7.
Right.
And they open it and close it as the army like.
When it wants. But now this is just permanently shut.
They not open it from October 7. Close.
If you broke the lock, what would they do?
They have a cameras over there.
All right.
You will see it, and they're gonna come and take you.
So we're being filmed now.
Yes.
Of course.
They watch us right now.
As we chatted, it became clear that that other big issue, the settlers, is in many ways more dangerous to them. The mayor showed us what he filmed when a farm on the edge of town was attacked by settlers. The farm building was ransacked and later set on fire by a large group. And later, sheep and goats are seen being herded away from the farm by settlers. He took me to where he filmed from.
Everybody try to go over there, they're gonna be at the dangerous zone.
And so literally, if we were to walk up that hill, we would be in danger straight away?
Yes, sure.
Are they watching now?
If you just try to go close to the settler, you will see them. They're gonna come and start to attack you.
It's crazy. They talk about
across the West Bank.
They behave like animals. You're literally talking about these dudes like they're a fucking pack of like rabid hyenas or something. Which is true. I mean, they do behave like fucking rabid animals.
And particularly here in the Jordan Valley, the landscape is scarred with the remains of destroyed Palestinian villages, emptied out after attacks by Israeli settlers. Through this dry, arid landscape, we arrive at one of the latest villages to be attacked and burnt out. The homes have been destroyed. The community abandoning their houses to the elements. It's eerie and quite striking. We found that uncertainty, argument.
I want to make a comparison to Ukraine. When people say, Hasan, you're not making concessions for the Palestinians when you talk about like Gaza and the genocide in Gaza, and the way that you're saying like Ukraine has to make concessions. No, I am. The reality is, this is a settlement project that has unfolded over 80 years. The true justice in this situation would be the forcible removal. That's never going to happen. And there are plenty of instances where there would be unjust. There's like children, there's people that only know this land as their home. They didn't choose to be born into a settlement like this. So the one singular solitary state that is secular in nature is a compromise. Because the reversal of the Likud policy, the reversal of the Israeli policy, which is the complete ethnic expulsion of all Palestinians from the land, would be the complete ethnic expulsion of all Jews from the land. That's not an argument that I'm presenting. That is an argument some people advocate for. I'm not one of those people. Okay? But that would be the no concessions, no holds barred, only Palestine and nothing else counter. So having a singular, secular, solitary nation state with equal rights and representation for all of the Jews and non-Jews living on this land currently is the compromise. How do I explain that criticizing Israel isn't anti-Semitic, but being anti-Semitic because of what Israel is doing isn't okay? I mean, you ask them, is this putting the blame squarely on the shoulder of Jews that are, many of which are anti-Zionist? Do you feel like that's a productive way to go about it? Because it's just not true. That in its simplest terms, anti-Semitism is a harmful bigotry. It's hateful. It's violent when implemented. But like in the simplest terms, it's just also untrue. It's no different than saying ISIS is doing all of this shit for Islam. And if you criticize Islam or you criticize ISIS, you're criticizing Islam. You're Islamophobic. Israel is a whole ass separate nation state. That's it.
Pain and suffering are recurring themes in the West Bank. A hospitable place made inhospitable by a conflict that's no nearer to resolution now, 6 decades after it started.